Bonjour! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Fasten up your seatbelt and enjoy this journey into Muse World with Lamia Norbert.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a new episode of Muse World. Today, I have another special guest with me. So I have Carl with me today, who is a newbie in Dubai. He recently moved to Dubai. Previously, he was an ex-military, British military.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
And now he is a power platform consultant who's working remotely here in Dubai. Hi, Carl.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, yes. How are you?
Good. Thank you for coming on board.
You're most welcome. I'm looking forward to it.
Good. So, Carl, I have a little bit of a tradition on how I start the podcast. Is I'm always very interested with the early years. So, obviously, because you've been in the military, tell me a little bit more about your early years and what actually made you choose to go to military.
As in prior to joining the military?
Yeah.
Do you want to go back that far?
Yeah.
Okay. So
where are you from?
Yeah, so I'm from England. I'm from a little town called Rugby, which is actually where rugby was created.
Oh,
It
really?
was
Okay.
it was William Webb Ellis
Okay.
who picked up a football at a time and ran with it, and that was the start of rugby.
Interesting.
So yeah, it's quite a nice town actually, to a degree.
Okay.
Maybe people that live there wouldn't say that, but I've lived there. I've moved away. It's nice to go back to.
Okay.
So I was born and grew up in Rugby with my parents, and I've got a brother who's 2 years older.
Okay.
Complete opposite to me, but he's a lovely guy. I got to say that about my brother, haven't I?
It's fine.
Yeah. So usual really. Went to school. Decided to do A levels as well. Came out of there and didn't know what I wanted to do in my life at all. Didn't know where I wanted to go. Didn't really know what I was good at either. And luckily, my parents, especially my father, was you're out the door at 7 o'clock in the morning. You don't return till 5 o'clock because I'm not having you sat indoors doing nothing.
Okay.
You need to go and earn, and you need to pay rent to a degree. So I ended up with two jobs, which were, one was working in cooperative supermarket and one was a second man to a logistics lorry driver. I was there as security as much as I was 16, 17 years old and a skinny little thing. So it wasn't really security. It was more just a second man in a lorry, as it was stated.
Okay.
So that was me really. And I think, it was my mother actually who said, have you ever fought the military? And I said, no, not at all. And she said, well, you're not going to the army because the army is classed as frontline. You don't want to be on a ship for 9 months of the year, so you're not going to the Navy. So if you fought the RAF, the Royal Air Force, and I didn't even know what it was back then.
Okay.
I said, yeah, fine, let's go see. So we went to what's called the careers office.
Okay.
And sat down with a gentleman there, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I have no idea. He said, well, what are you good at? I said, IT. I don't know what, I'm good with computers. So he said, okay, he said, here's a booklet. You can read all about all the trades in the RF, take it home and have a think. So I took it home and I just said, yeah, okay, let's sign up for trade group 4, it was called, and it was IT and comms,
Okay.
which encompassed quite a variety of things. I'll come on to that, but mainly I was interested in the IT side.
Okay.
So that was that really. And then you have to go through obviously a process of making sure you can run 1.5 miles in a certain amount of time, do enough amount of press ups, a little bit of fitness testing.
Yeah, I think it's online, right? You can find that online.
You can find all the information online, absolutely, but
Okay.
obviously you've got to go and get it signed off by a PT in a gym.
Okay.
It's not the most difficult, if I'm honest, but it's just that pre-selection.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, then I think on the trade that I was joining, there was a bit of a hold on it, and I ended up working those two jobs probably for around 6 more months. And then I eventually got the call, we'd like you to start. You then join the military, and initially you go for basic training. And back then it was 9 weeks of basic training, which was mainly armed around physical fitness, but also learning a few set standards, being taught how to iron, being taught how to sew names into your socks.
Nice.
Yeah, all things like that. And that's an interesting one actually, is so to give a bit of overview of this. When my parents dropped me off, they expected a phone call within 48 hours of me coming home. And I didn't know what I was signing up for, if I'm honest. I didn't know what to expect, but I just went along with it. And I think something in me just clicked and said, you're not a quitter and you don't want to back out. And coming back onto that sock point, it was the fourth night. And I've labeled it sock night. And I think a lot of military will know what this is. And it's when you have to sew your name. So obviously, have you ever seen, what would you say they are? Just a piece of material with your name on, which you get pre-printed, obviously, and then you sew it into your items. So I've sewn them into my socks.
Okay.
I'm sleep deprived, so I've probably been up till 1, 2 in the morning.
Okay.
And your reveille, as it's called, your first rise is at 5:30 in the morning, and it's straight by your beds. They've got to be completely prepared, cleaned, etc. And then they started going through all your kit, and they pulled out my socks, and I'd done my name upside down.
Oh, no.
So it was, right, you've got till tomorrow morning to sort them out. So obviously I had a full day's work or training as such.
Mm-hmm.
And then of an evening, I'm one of maybe 3 or 4 idiots out of 50 who have got to sit there and unpick our socks and rechange them just to make sure they're the right way around. That's how, not nitpicky, I'm trying to think of the word. That's how tight it was, essentially. It had to be a certain way. So yeah, those 9 weeks passed. And then after that, you go off to your trade training. So my trade was IT and comms.
Okay.
As I said, it's quite a broad thing. And in the end, that was 13 months long. That's what it was in the end. And then once you graduate from there, you hopefully get posted to a location that you want. You kind of get 3 choices you can put forwards.
Okay.
And hopefully get somewhere you want. So I then got posted to North Yorkshire.
All right.
Yeah, RAF Leeming, which was probably the furthest north I'd been in a long old time. So that was interesting. So I ended up doing around 3.5 years there, mainly working on satellite communications.
Okay.
So I wasn't quite in the IT sphere there, but there was a little bit. I then left there and I was like, I think I got promoted then and then got moved to MOD Bicester.
Okay, what's
which
that?
is just Ministry of Defence in Bicester, which is just outside Oxford, right by, people might know it, Bicester Village in the UK.
Okay.
So I was then there working mainly with the army, actually. And it was a really interesting post. It was one that was laughed at and I probably didn't want at first because you're going into the fold of an army fold and there's a big difference between army, RAF and Navy.
Okay.
But I loved it. Genuinely loved it. The people there were fantastic. Made some really good friends. Some I still talk to now. And it was a really interesting job, as in we would have a few days away to Navy ships, Navy vessels, and we'd install server racks and equipment onto Navy vessels. So that was really cool.
It's really nice.
And yeah, so finished up there. Then I got promoted from there and went back up north to RAF Coningsby, which is Lincolnshire.
Okay.
And that was more an IT side then. And that was also a role that I really wanted because you got to go away a lot. Obviously, I think I was between having a partner at the time / single. So going away was always my thing. I had no real responsibilities. I was always looking forward to going away. So I've been very fortunate with the RAF. Absolutely loved it. I came out at the right time. Doing 10 years was enough for me. But I still stand by, and you've definitely heard me say this before, the RAF gave me everything and owes me nothing. And I think if anyone's ever considered it, or even if they're not sure where they want to go in life, but they'd like to maybe progress going from a boy to a man, join the military. Absolutely.
And I like the fact that you mentioned that because obviously now that I hear a little bit more, because I remember when we had chat outside the cameras, I didn't want to learn more because I wanted to know everything now.
Sure.
But now that I'm hearing your story and I'm like, wow, that's actually really nice. I never thought, because for me, when someone is in military, it's a bit like what I see in movies. You know, I've never actually known anybody that was actually in the military and been doing all of that, you know. So I was like, oh, military is like in the movies, they go like fights and like all of that. But one thing that I like is that discipline side. So it kind of like from a very young age, it kind of shows you discipline. But what do you think are the other skills that you gained being in the military?
I think number one would be independence. You are as I mentioned, when you're going through your basic training, you're in a corridor and you've just got a bed space and it's got to be pristine at all times. You've got your military locker, which is full of all your military equipment, your military clothes, essentially your uniform. And then you've also got your personal locker. And again, you would have inspections constantly. So it's keeping on top of that. As I mentioned, you're taught how to iron. It seems a little silly, but I wonder how many people in this world are of a certain age and don't know how to iron. You're taught how to use a washing machine, things like that, all these life skills that we may not be taught at school. And unless our parents have passed that down to us, I'm not too sure that we would be taught.
100%. I agree.
Okay, yes, these days we've got YouTube. Anyone can follow a guide on YouTube. But yeah, so definitely the independence part, looking after yourself, making sure. And that's another thing, actually, it's just come to my head there, is at the very start, you're pretty much pulled out your bed space and told, you need to be here at this time. You need to be here at this time. So it drills that mentality into you that being on time, I'm going to say it is late, but being 5 minutes early is on time.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great mentality with going forwards.
100%.
I think a lot of people don't realize time management is a big aspect in life.
100%. I agree.
And then probably the third one, the main one that I've taken from the military is being solution driven.
Okay.
And I say that because no matter where you are, whether you're in your office or out in the field, you can have issues and you can have problems with the kit, with what's going on, etc. But you've got to get to the end goal. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what you've got to do. Your hierarchy, your line manager doesn't want to hear the problems. They want to hear, okay, but how are you going to solve that?
Yeah.
And having that drilled into you to then leave the military, and what I do now is very solution driven as well. People want the solution at the end.
Yeah.
So there is an element there of, I've probably come out and I've probably realized I'm very black or white.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. But I'm also allowing myself at where I am now to go, okay, to me it's black or white. But if somebody says actually could be orange, I'll go, but why is it orange? I'm now inquisitive. Explain to me why you think it's orange. 100%. And if I agree, or I agree with certain points, I'll let that orange come in.
Yeah, I
can't believe I'm giving metaphors on colours here.
No,
but
it's to be fair, I've used that metaphor many times because even in like 2 episodes before, I was with Ali and I was telling him, Ali is someone I met in Mulai, but I was telling him the same thing. It's like, I like to know what's people's perspective, you know? It's nice to have like, and allowing yourself to kind of get that feedback. And then at the end of the day, you judge, is it really orange? Because for me, maybe it's not. But why are you thinking like that way?
Sure.
But yeah. One thing I also is on top of my mind that's been a little bit like, not annoying me, but it was like tickling my mind because I wanted to know. Obviously, it's tough being in the military.
To a degree.
To a degree, I think so.
For sure.
Okay. Is there any time where you were like, okay, that's it, I give up? Like throughout those 10 years, was there any moment where you were like, you know what, actually, I don't want to do this?
I don't think so, no.
No?
No, there were some tough times, don't get me wrong. And that was probably when I was taken out of my comfort zone.
Okay.
And that's something I've grown into now to love, is to be outside the comfort zone. I think everyone should like an element of that, absolutely. And maybe it's I use the term when you're playing soldiers, because the RAF, for first and foremost, we're never really front line. We're always the ones, we're more taught defend or rather than attack.
Yeah.
So when we would go on training exercises, you know, still carrying a rifle around, etc., it was 3-4 days in the forest, living in a tent, if you're lucky, sleeping on a roll mat, you're sleep deprived, you're doing drills, you're doing exercises, whatever that might be. It takes a lot from you. Of course it does, because they have to get that feeling and initiate it inside you prior to you potentially deploying to a war zone or wherever it may be. So there's certainly times with that. And I know for me, I used to be really bad with my food.
Okay. Why?
I don't know, but I was a child that when I went on holiday with my parents, I would have chicken nuggets and beans, and that was it every single night.
Okay.
I would never try anything else.
Okay.
So I'd never touch an Indian, a Chinese, an Asian dish, anything like that. Now, again, in the military, when you deploy, you get ration packs, 24-hour ration packs.
Mm.
And it was things such as basmati rice or a biryani or a butter chicken or something else. And I'm going, oh, what am I going to eat here? So I just stick to what I knew, which was they were called biscuit browns.
Okay.
And they were, you might as well be eating cardboard, but they were calories. And you needed that when you're in the field. And I remember being there one time, I'm giving out all my food to everyone because, again, you have to show that you're eating. So I give out the food and then I'd have the wrappers and then show my directive staff afterwards, the DS. I'd show them, look, these are my empty wrappers, show I've eaten. And I wasn't. So I was in a bad place. And that's what I used to call it. I'd be like, I'm in a bad place here. Like, I'm in a really bad place. So that was probably my level of tough. But I knew what was coming at the end of those 3-4 days. As long as I knew what the end goal was, so if the end goal was 3-4 days, whatever it was, I knew that I could push myself to that because I knew I was going back to a nice warm shower. I can go back to cooking my own food. And thankfully, nowadays, as I'm sure you're aware, because we talk about food a lot,
Yes,
I now absolutely love food, trying new foods. And I'm definitely over that phase of not liking Indian food, biryanis, things like that. So absolutely love it now.
That's interesting. I love that. What would you say, on top of your head right now, what was the best memory that you have being in the military? Or the best day, or something that really truly marked you?
I think some of the best times I had was actually when you deploy abroad. So my favorite time abroad was I'd done 6 months in Oman, just up the road.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd done 6 months in Oman. And the great thing about that is everybody's in the same situation. So there's, I don't know, 60 to 80 of us, and we're all there and we all know we're going to be there for 6 months. Obviously, people come and go all the time, which is both great and also really sad because you make good friends, they disappear before you and you're counting down your days. But it was just, you're in the middle of the desert, you're working away, I think it's 5.5 days a week. But on your time off, this is what was great about the military was they would go, there's the keys to a wagon, go wherever you want.
Nice.
So we got to go into Muscat, got to go to the souks, we'd go and do hotel days. So the friends and the connections you make from those 60 to 80 people is unbelievable. I still talk to some of them now. And the camp itself, you make it what it is. You know, you've got cooks there that will do all your food and stuff. So you've constantly got that. We have our own bar, so we can have social evenings, etc. And I think just all those memories. And that was the first time probably that I'd been away at Christmas.
Okay.
So I spent Christmas in the desert as it was. And it was so different. But again, we just put on a massive Christmas spread. The staff there were incredible. Everyone's in the same boat. You have, I think we did the morning together. We had a volleyball championship, which we won, may I say. Of course.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Still got the certificate. And then it was kind of right. You can go back to your rooms and chill out, FaceTime your family, etc. And then later on, we got a bit of social. So those memories are some of the best. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
I love that. I can imagine it must have been nice. Plus, I need to see that certificate. But okay, I'm hearing your story, and I am like, wow. So you've been through a lot of change throughout like 10 years.
Yeah.
How did you deal with change? Was that tough? Because, like, for example, I'll give you an example, a personal example. I am obviously, like, I'm from Madagascar, but I'm also half Mauritian. So throughout my whole childhood, I always had to do the back and forth. And the environment in Madagascar and the environment in Mauritius is very different. The cultures are different. So I always had to adapt very quickly. Same when I moved to London, and then same when I moved here in Dubai. So did you cope well with change throughout these years?
Yeah, I'd say I was very fortunate, and that's because I was classed as a singly, as in I wasn't married, so I didn't have family or kids to move about all the time. It was just me. I would live on camp. And the way that I would describe that is, imagine having a travel lodge on camp.
Okay.
And you have a shared communal area and a shared kitchen on each floor. So when I would move about, yes, there's nerves, there's anxiousness, all that kind of thing, but you were going into an environment where you would live on camp, so you're fully set up again. You then walk to work, to your office, or sometimes drive, whatever it might be. And again, you're surrounded by people who've been through what you've been through, usually the same trades. So you've got a mutual ground there, and it just grows from there. And this is one of the best things about the military, and I certainly miss it now, especially now I work from home, is I'd use the term the brotherhood, but it was also sisterhood, because, there's females in the military as well, which is fantastic. It's just that togetherness. Everybody's in the same boat, and everybody wants that solution at the end.
Yeah.
So the friends, the companions, and, digging in, as we call it, it's amazing what people can do together and how much they want to help each other. So I certainly miss it, and I'm so glad that those people that I have met along the way, there's still a lot that I'm still in contact with and still see, which is really, really nice. I know I've lost a couple along the way, but it is what it is. It's not always that easy to hold long distance relationships, but it's nice. I've probably still got them on social somewhere down the line, so I can see what they're up to.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely probably the main thing I take from it.
That's nice. So after 10 years, you decide to leave. What made you decide to leave?
Oh, I became very frustrated with the rank structure, which I completely understand with the military, don't get me wrong. I just became very frustrated with it. I didn't feel like my voice was being heard.
Okay.
I'm coming up through the ranks. I'm trying to put my point forward, etc. And sometimes it just didn't feel like it was heard. And that became frustrating. The biggest kick in the teeth was when I mentioned my final post to Lincolnshire, IF Coningsby, was quite a heavily deployable role.
Okay.
So as a role, you would look after service and maintain the kit, and you would deploy with the kit. Yeah. And I'm like, great, I'm going to see the world. It's going to be amazing. I get there, and things just change. The deployment side of the role starts to be removed or opened up to other people in the squadron. There was a trip to America.
Okay.
And I was really looking forward to it. And I was like, my role's against this. I'm going.
Yeah.
And they opened it up to the squadron. So I had a couple of chats with bosses above, etc. And it just kind of went on false ears. And then the lad who went to go, I hold nothing against him at all. He went. And then what happened is the kit that he went with was, my section's kit. So we'd maintained it, we'd looked after it. So I'm then having to spend extra time teaching that person our kit to go away with. And then when he's away, he doesn't know the answer. So he's constantly ringing back home for myself or some others from the section, how to do this. And that just hit me like a brick. I was like, why am I giving everything to, look after this kit, make sure it's deployable and ready at any minute's notice, to then not deploy with it? And somebody else gets the joys of going to America and seeing the world. That was really my turning point.
And then you decided to just leave.
So the way it works in the military is you have to they call it you give in your papers, or because it's all actually done on a system, is we call it 7 clicks to heaven.
Okay.
Because the first page brings up your profile, let's say, you click next page is your reasonings, click next. And so 7 times, and then eventually you send off your papers. It's called a PVR, can't remember what P stands for, but voluntary withdrawal or whatever it is. And that then hopefully gets accepted. They try and talk you out of it or see if they can help you in any way, which again, I completely understand. Retention is a big thing. And with my trade, it was you had to give a year's notice.
Okay.
However, probably working wise of that, you'd probably be looking around 8 or 9 months, because what the military does offer you is a great resettlement package.
Okay.
So you get, I want to say probably around 2 months, 2-ish months of leave, where that's enabling you to go and find other work, go and start doing interviews.
Okay.
And then coming back to that resettlement package is they offer a substantial amount of money towards courses, whatever you need going forwards. They put on courses as well.
Okay.
So I went and spent 2 days down south with a civilian company, and they tell you everything from CVs, interview tips, mock interviews, getting you ready for that civilian life, because it's a big transition from the military to civilian. A lot of people struggle. A lot of people probably end up going back into the military because it's all they know.
Yeah.
And it is difficult. I won't lie, it is difficult. You ask yourself a lot of questions. Am I ready? A big thing for me, a personal story for me, was I was worried that I was going to go into the industry I'm in now, walk into an office and go, that person's got a uni degree, that person's got a master's, that person's been doing it for X amount of years. I've been in the military for 10 years. Who am I? But actually, you soon learn that I have something they don't.
Yeah.
And that's, I've lived in those dark environments, those obscure environments. I've problem solved to the best of my ability, whereas they might not have lived at that high level of pressure.
100% I agree.
So there's massive transferable skills.
I agree, because do you know one thing I've realized is, listen, I've studied up to my master's, but I truly believe that I've learned the most about life by actually going outside of the comfort zone, meeting people, living life, basically, you know?
Experience.
Exactly. So I would see, being in the military, you had more life experiences, and that's what life is all about. You know, this is a big thing, because as you just mentioned, some people are not able to work under pressure. Some people doesn't have discipline. Some people doesn't have loyalty. And I think these are kind of the traits that you get being in the military. So how was your return to reality? Let's put it like that.
Really smooth.
You didn't struggle?
I struggled with going from having people around me to working from home.
Okay.
Yes, when I did come out, it was sort of midway through COVID. So when I was still in the military, there was a bit of a COVID lifestyle of, I was working from home 2 weeks and then a week in the office.
Okay.
But it was limited manpower in there, so it wasn't as busy. That's probably the main thing I struggled with, was not having people around me. But otherwise, I was lucky. I kind of landed on my feet. I put myself out there. I decided that I wanted to, although I'd set up a business doing what I do now with 2 friends at a time, I decided I wanted to go into industry. I didn't want to leave the military and just go into my own business. I wanted to go industry.
Okay.
So I set myself up, joined a great company who allowed me to work from home, who were impressed with my skills straight off, because in that year when I'd put in my paperwork, I was learning what I do now. So I'd built up a good level of knowledge and expertise. I just didn't have the experience as such. So I landed that role with them and ended up doing 6 months with them, and then just jumped straight on to carry on the business I set up at the time. But yeah, the transition for me felt good.
So you were in the UK at that time, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Okay. And so you then decided to move to Dubai.
Yeah.
My question, why Dubai?
Why Dubai?
You could go anywhere in the world. You could go to America. Why Dubai?
So it stemmed from, I think I've always wanted to live abroad, always wanted to. And last year I booked a holiday with my partner at the time. We went to Bali. It was maybe a 3-week holiday.
Okay.
At that time, just before I was going, I was then said company that I started with 2 friends, I was removed from that company. So, but you know what? That was a blessing in disguise.
All right.
Because all of a sudden, when we landed in Bali, myself and my partner at the time, within 48 hours, we said, let's stay longer. And I know for a fact, if I hadn't just been removed from my company, I'd have felt like I needed to be in the UK.
Okay.
So in all honesty, that was holding me there.
Okay.
I don't regret either side. It is what it is. So we extended for 3 months. So we lived 3 months in Bali. And I started to find some work again whilst I was out there, and started to do bits here and there. And then just a bit of context on that, when I then came back to the UK after the 3 months, that's when I set up just myself as my own business, contracted. So I really enjoyed that. And if you've got the chance for a bit of freedom and to live away, work away, use it. So we ended up doing a bit in the UK, a bit in Spain, a bit in the UK, a bit in Portugal, etc. And then we spoke of Dubai. Now, I've always known of Dubai. I think I came here for a weekend 2021.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, okay, this has got everything. And Dubai just, on paper, has everything. Seems to be where people come. So I decided, I had a wedding in April, and after the wedding, I said, right, I'm going to go to Dubai for one-way ticket.
Okay.
Bring a suitcase, maybe last for a month, maybe a bit longer, see what it is. And I kept asking myself, do I want to call this home? Do I want to call this home? And do you know what? That was the wrong question to ask. And it finally hit me after about 6 weeks. So this was in May. And it said, what is there not here that there would be elsewhere?
Okay.
And that's when I went, no, Dubai's got everything. I call it convenient city.
Okay.
Because everything is convenient. Everything is available to you at a touch of an app.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, I think I said to you, I'm still very old school. I go to supermarkets. I still like to pack my own bags and carry them to the car, even though every man's shouting at me to try and get the bags off me and do it themselves and things like that.
Yeah.
Or here's free delivery, and I've walked 100 meters like I'm okay. So that was probably why Dubai was. I saw a lot of people coming here, the opportunities.
That's true.
And yeah, it just made sense to come out here. And then I decided, let's set a business, let's get residency. And I haven't looked back. And so far, I absolutely love it. I think it was the right decision for me because I don't know what I would have found elsewhere around the world that I don't find here.
I agree. I think I love to see people's perspective about when they first moved to Dubai. Because as I said to you and to a lot of people, I didn't like Dubai when I first came.
Yeah.
It took me a moment before I'm like, actually, you know what? It's actually pretty cool here. I remember we were talking about the app. I remember I was like, what's that in it? And then a friend of mine was like, yeah, that's a truck that basically brings fuel to your car. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I was like mind blown. I was like, hold on a minute. So you don't go to the petrol station. No, you can just call that and it will come to you. And I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Revolutionary.
I swear. And even, when you're talking about groceries, I mean, prior here, I was in the UK. So it was absolutely normal. And I had my specific store that I would go for certain things.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely normal. And then slowly as you come here, you're like, do you know what? May as well just order.
Yeah.
And I agree. But did you have a smooth, I would say, settling here? Like a smooth settle? Is that how you say it?
Yeah, settlement. Yeah.
Settlement? Yeah.
Settling in. It wasn't bad. So when I first came here, I think I'd been on one of the Facebook groups, and there was a girl who was going away for a couple of weeks in Business Bay. So I stayed at her place while she was away. So that gave me an idea of Business Bay. And then I moved to JVC purely from the fact that a lot of the blogs say that's where expats are. It's the middle of everywhere, 20 minutes to everywhere. I was like, okay, perfect. So that's what I did. I then found an Airbnb there. And that went smooth enough for me. It had what I needed. It gave me what I needed. Rented a car at the same time, so I can get to and from the places I want to get to. So it was smooth to a degree. It then didn't become so smooth when it came down to actually signing up for rent for a year. Yeah, that got interesting.
That was definitely, I heard the story. And so funny enough, so I had 2 colleagues / friends of mine that was on the podcast, and we actually talked about real estate. And we were actually talking about the issue that you face here in real estate is that a lot of people just join real estate like that blindly, but they're not really they don't make that little bit of effort of learning the procedure, learning the areas, learning the buildings. They just, because people are like, oh, real estate, big money, commission, tack, fast pace,
Yeah.
But they're not actually putting in their mind listen, this person actually is looking for a house for them to stay. And if you actually give them a good service and you actually put yourself in their shoes in the future, that could still, that is building relationship basically, So yeah, but eventually you're here now.
I'm here.
How do you feel working remotely? Obviously, because people here, I would say there's a percentage of people that still works remotely, but you don't have that office 9 to 5 kind of environment. So how do you feel working here remotely? Has it been fun, or was it challenging you in some kind of way?
It's normal to me to work remotely.
Okay.
I love to cook food fresh every single day, so being at home is great. So again, for me, accommodation wise, I need a good sized kitchen with my air fryer, my bits and pieces. But I've certainly found myself more going to the malls and just sitting in a cafe and working from a cafe. I went twice this week and I got so much work done.
Yeah.
I'm fortunate in that sense, maybe that I don't have a heavy burden on calls. If I have calls, I'm not so sure I'd take them in cafes. I'd rather take them in my home environment, in my home office. But yeah, definitely it can get on top of you, so you have to remind yourself to go and have the co-working days. There's some great co-working spaces in Dubai. I've been to a couple. But if you've not, you've always got cafes. And even there's enough people out there that have got a spare day here or there, or they can pop and see you somewhere for a drink or whatever. So you've just got to make it right for you. And I think that's the main thing with Dubai is there's so much glitz and glam, of course, but there's so much of the other end. So you've got to work out what works for you and stick with that.
Yeah, I agree. Did you ever feel lonely here in Dubai ever since you came here?
Yeah, look, I came here not knowing no one.
Okay.
And yeah, didn't know what to expect, but I made a promise to myself to throw myself into things. Thankfully, I found two really good communities, obviously Mulai, which we go to, and the Brotherhood. And I haven't looked back from either. And I've made some great friends, including yourself, from them. So, and that's the thing is, you've got to chuck yourself into those moments, into those groups. How else are you going to find people? How else are you going to make friends, connections, whatever it might be? And even more so for me, working from home, so just put yourself out there, and what's the worst that can happen? You shake someone's hands and you forget their name,
Yep.
So
I
yeah,
agree.
there was an element of loneliness, of course, but I could have that in the UK as well, because I didn't know where my home was in the UK. I was flitting between Airbnbs.
Okay.
So again, constantly moving around, not really having that solid base. So to now say that this is my home, that feels really nice to say. To now say this is my home is I can now expand.
That's beautiful. So if you had the opportunity, let's say I had magical powers, put it like that,
Okay.
and I was to ask you, you have the opportunity to go back to the military now, today. Would you go back?
No.
No?
There's a part of me that wants to say yes,
Yeah?
but I don't think it will have changed that much.
Okay.
And I think with the military as well, I soon realized you're actually paid very well for what you do, because a lot of the time you can be sat in the UK in a hangar doing next to nothing. And again, maybe that was just me. Something clicked in me that I wanted a bit more from life. I wanted to give more. I knew I could give more. And when you're sat there almost doing nothing or just doing the same mundane tasks, you realize you go one or two ways. It's, do you want a bit more from life, or do you want to just coast? So yeah, I don't think I would. If I got a call up to say we need you to deploy to somewhere, yeah, get me on that. Get me on that plane all day.
Okay.
All day.
So before I move to the last bit of the podcast, I have one question to ask you. Are you happy where you are right now?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, genuinely am.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of a tradition. Before I move to that, I want to ask you one last question.
Okay.
Any piece of advice to anybody, to either who wants to start military or who wants to move to Dubai? What, on your perspective, what are the kind of advice that you would give to anyone listening to us right now?
Okay, we'll start the military first. Is do it 100%. Just start. Just give it all you've got, and don't back down at the first hardship, because there are elements that are hard to a degree. Because the friends you will make along the way, you will never look back. And as I mentioned, the transferable skills, you can't teach that.
Yep.
It's a cog. I love the saying that I joined a boy and I left a man. And that's the person I am today. The piece with Dubai. Yeah, as I mentioned, if you've got access to social media prior to coming to Dubai, find out what's out there. I think Mulai I actually found on a YouTube video.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to remind myself who the gentleman was. And he mentioned about the ice bath, because Dubai's got everything going on. So if ice baths, breathwork, meditation, which are not for you, there's sports, there's paddle, there's escape rooms, there's actually there's so much, and there's so many communities. Christ, I feel weird because I don't run out here, and there's so many running communities.
Yes, there are.
So
there are indeed.
Again, just get yourself to them. Just get yourself to them, because there's a constant turnaround as well with people in Dubai. So you're not the only one who's joined in the past year. There's people coming every single week, and you'll soon just find one person that you connect with.
Yeah.
And I'm very fortunate. I've found those people out here already.
Beautiful. Thank you. So, my favorite part. Ha. All right, just don't worry. They're not too scary. That's my last. I like to end with it. It's just to kind of break the ice, to kind of chill. Some questions are easy. Some questions are a little bit like I want to dig a little bit deeper.
Okay.
But overall, they're fun.
Let's go.
Ready? Early bird or night owl?
Early bird.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Sometimes if I pronounce wrong, sorry. My mother tongue is friend. Savory or sweet breakfast?
Savory.
Okay. If you had to choose one season to live in for the rest of your life?
I moved to Dubai, so it's got to be summer.
I don't know. I'm just asking. What is a talent that you have that nobody knows, or not a lot of people knows about you? Talent or skills? Just put it like that.
I cook really healthy meals, maybe. I struggle to find a talent. I'm sure there are somewhere.
All right, so leading up to that one.
Okay.
If you had to choose one meal
Yes.
to cook for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
I'm really simple. This is going to sound so boring for somebody who says that they cook. For me, is all day some nice mince.
Okay.
With some vegetables, which for me would be courgette, carrot, and peas.
Okay.
With a teriyaki sauce and some nice sticky rice.
Ooh.
Some avocado on the side.
Ooh.
And we're all about gut health here, so we'll go with some kimchi as well.
Okay, now you're making me hungry.
And a beautifully fried egg on top.
Oh my god!
So it's kind of like an Asian dish, really.
All
but
right.
Yeah, that's my meal.
I like the fusion. I like everything.
Okay, sold.
But I need to taste it to know if it's good. All right. If you could go back in the past and change one thing, what would it be and why?
I think for me, when I was younger, I've always wanted to just be accepted. And that probably got brought up when I had therapy.
Yeah.
That I just wanted to be accepted. And I also realized that I would take out a lot that was happening to me on other people, especially my brother, in fact. I was 2 years younger. So anything he had, I wanted straight away.
Okay.
If he got a TV in his room, I want a TV. My parents, you got to wait 2 years. I want one. I'd always try and beat him up, and he's much bigger than me. And he would always be the one looking after me, and yet I still probably gave off the vibe I hated him. So there was almost brotherly hate there. But it was definitely stemmed from me. And again, that's something that I've picked up on. So I think for me, if I was going to change anything, it would be around, you don't need validation. Just be yourself. And if people like that, great. And if they don't, then they're not your people.
Perfect. Love that. If you had one superpower, which one would it be?
One superpower. To know everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think being an oracle, being the wisdom guy.
Really?
Yeah, that anyone could just come and ask you a question. Basically be Google.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
What's your biggest fear?
Spiders.
Oh, yes. Finally, someone who's scared of spiders like me. Because it's really rare. I shit myself in front of spiders.
Okay.
I'll tell you a story after. You'll be bored with my stories, but I still tell you my spider story. Anyway, last one, which is actually my favorite one by far, if you could give one advice to your younger self, which one would it be?
Try not to touch on what I just touched on a minute ago there. If I could give one advice.
If the little Carl was right here in front of you, looking at you, what is the advice you'd tell him?
I'm going to go a bit stoic, I think, and say, no matter how dark it is, as long as you can see your feet, take one step forwards and the rest will work itself out.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Carl. That was beautiful.
It was good. It's good to chat. It's been a while since I've touched on military points, but it was interesting.
Thank you. It was absolutely a lovely story. Your story is unique. That's the reason why I like having people from different background, different stories. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And hopefully I'll see you maybe for part 2. We'll see how Dubai is treating you in 1 year.
I'm sure I'll still be here. Still living that summer lifestyle.
Good. Well, thank you again. And on that note, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.